Hello friends, welcome to Akul Mac Live and I am Chandrakant. Today morning I got an email from Zoom saying that as per the new IT Act, they have modified their use policies. And I have actually glanced the new policy, and some of the things which are mentioned here are the age limit. We have defined very clearly who is the probable user of Zoom services. Then there is a record regulation around recording, and also regulation about the content distribution because it could be copyrighted. To discuss this matter, I have a very senior distinguished personality in the studio, Mr. Gaunt, and we will discuss this policy impact which is happening in India.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. And yes, these providers, content providers, platform providers, are now being pushed heavily by governments around the world to maintain security, maintain copyright, and maintain lots of other things, privacy in particular. But I think something that may have missed a lot of people's attention here, and this is particularly for schools, because the majority of schools during COVID jumped into the digital world, and by far and above most other platforms that were currently existing, Zoom is one that I think an awful lot of schools have locked into because of the flexibility and the ease of use and the fact that you don't have to have a huge program running in the background. It's all web-based, it's nice and digital, it's nice and quick. But what that means now, just for education, so let's just focus here for the moment, is that if you're under 16, and let's face it, there's millions of young people in India in particular that are under 16 that are using Zoom for their education, for their academic, prowess, moving forward in academics arena. Now they're not allowed to use it. That's the bottom line. You perhaps may be able to get around this by having the parent log on to Zoom. But in some respects, I think that's probably pushing the law a little too far, and it's certainly putting the license beyond that which Zoom has actually instigated, because they've been very clear. And the other thing is, quite rightly, as you said, copyright. Copyright is huge here. And in education, they need to think about this as well, because the number of teachers that I've seen put things up that they have no right to be putting up, no access to, and getting over copyright or using within the law of copyright is easy. As long as you put the source of the information, where it's come from, so you're recognizing the author, then that's absolutely fine. It's when you take the author away, when you take the rights of their privacy, their priority work that could have taken them years to do, when you take that away, you are contravening any copyright, the international copyright law. So just for education, I think we need to be helping them understand what this new law means and how it's going to work, because their practices are going to have to change, and they're going to have to change overnight. Because Zoom, if you go onto a Zoom conference today from your country, they will have to sign this disclaimer. And the other thing is, like anything else, people do not read the fine print. So we're bringing this to your knowledge. We're raising your awareness, because you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have a process and a policy to deal with it. What that is, we'll happily help you, develop it. But, by all means, you need to consider it carefully, because the last thing you want to be doing is using the Zoom platform in particular, and actually you're going to be going against the rights of use.
Well, Neville, Google was the first company to nail this whole thing. And if you know about Google, they will not allow you to create an email address if you're below 16 years. And they were the first one. And you can create a student email address, but then you will be part of a family pack. So if you're like 15 years old child, then you can create, but your parents will have to create it for you as part of a family pack. And then using that email, whatever you do, it is intimated to the parent. That is how the Google has solved this legal problem. But in case of Zoom, you're not even allowed to use if you're below 16. and you have to indemnify Zoom about all the content that you're sharing. So there is a content sharing policy. I've not gone through this in detail, but I'm sure it must be uniform across the world. You know, you are supposed to be owner of the content which you're sharing. It should not be obscene in nature. It should not be a sledging kind of content, etc. And then Zoom has most importantly said that if they identify some of these violations, they will simply remove you from their client list.
And see, that's the important part that we need to make. We need to get education clear of this today. This, in many respects, is the first that's actually said you can't use a video machine, a video content machine, a platform, or anything like that if you've got under 16-year-olds. They haven't even included a family pack by the words I've written. Now, that may be, something that Zoom need to address as well. So if Zoom's listening to this, then please address it, because there are so many thousands of pupils and schools that are relying upon Zoom as that, content director, as that communication tool, and they're utilizing the Zoom platform, however well they can do it. And, our thoughts today are, get the teachers, get the head teachers involved in just exactly what's happening. Just look at what's happening, see how it's going to affect you. Obviously, for any of your children over 16, don't have a problem. But there's millions of young people, not just in India, but across the world, that are tuning in to teachers giving lessons over Zoom. We just have to be really careful now. And being aware means you can do something about it.
Well, the second thing here is, Neville, is that if you are recording, say for example in school arena, if you're recording a class session, then you're not allowed to do that unless you have taken permission from the other side. So if the schools are recording some 30-40 students joining the session, and if they're recording it for improving the quality, they are not allowed to do that using Zoom platform. So they have to use some other platform. I don't know what that platform would be, but at least using Zoom, they have to take permission from each and every student, and it's like an opt-in service.
Well, like anything else, there's always got to be a first mover. As you quite rightly said, Google did this some time ago just on email addresses. They were smart. They created a family pack. So what that meant was that there was a discussion in the family, which is really good news. People that want to get around that can still get around it. They can ask their uncle to do it because their mum and dad won't, or something. But my point is, at least they looked at what should be happening. Perhaps Zoom will go down this route as well. I hope they do, because there are far too many people involved in the education arena alone. I'm not touching the business arena for the moment, because most businesses actually are over 16. So this is where maybe Zoom's thoughts have been. However, please, if you're in education, if you're a teacher there, or you're a governor, or you're an owner of a school system, we'll happily work with you, and so that you can understand what's possible within these changes. But the thing is, these changes are there, and you will be, as CK said, if you do not abide by their rules, the license will be taken away. And just imagine the thousands of kids in your schools that now will not have that option. And yes, there are other, webinar type packages that are out there. Google's got one, Microsoft's got one, and a few others have got their own bespoke. But the interesting thing is, you don't really want to be moving away from something you're comfortable on. So the message today is quite simple. The rules have changed. Please listen to what those rules are. We've just literally scratched the surface on these changes, but these are the three important ones, and you need to be aware of what's happening and make sure that your school or your school district or any parent now needs to be aware of this. And the last thing you want is to slow down education, which we had during COVID. That's the biggest issue. And that's what will happen here if we do not act. So it's a tough subject, I'm afraid. It's a bit of tough love for people that are out there, but the rules do change. You just have to be aware of them.
Yes, Neville. In fact, the third thing is the copyright, which is when the school teachers are showing some examples, some diagrams, uh, some study material, it has to be their own content. They cannot take any other content from Google and show it to people or the students. So I think that is the third important aspect. And because these things, I read it and I have written to principal of my school of my kids saying that what are they going to do now, because they are heavily using Zoom for everything, freely. It's a free tool, just use it, that kind of thing was happening. What they are going to do now is the question mark. And I've written to the principal. Let's see what decision they take.
Well, again, part of what we're doing here is just raising awareness, and hopefully raising Zoom's awareness as well, because there are things that they can do. I completely understand why they've done what they've done, but when we're talking about under 16-year-olds, they have to recognise that there's a lot of users out there that are under 16, and they're in the good arena, they're in the education arena, and the last thing we want to be doing now is having a fight over the next 2 to 3 months over what is allowed and what isn't allowed, because young people have missed enough schooling around the world over the last 18 months. So now what we need to be doing is fixing this very quickly, or at least having a patch, a workaround that works within the law, but obviously it's not stopping young people in their education.
Absolutely. In fact, the schools can come out with their own ERP, with their video sessions, and they will have to exert a little bit more and not rely on the social media platforms like Google or Zoom. I think they have to get out of it. That's the only solution which I see. And just in case if some smart student who thinks he's a smart cookie create an email address with a wrong age, then as per the legal liability and indemnification clause, he is liable for violating the law. So the law is very clear. I think we are going to see some big changes in the education industry now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's about taking personal ownership. So it's a message we just want to pass to people. There are ways you can work within this and make it work for you. It may mean a little bit more process up front, but we'll also hopefully be sending Zoom a message to just say, what else can you do? You've looked like you've solved the business arena, but actually, I think you've missed a big arena here too. So this is a watching brief, but the last thing is we want to stop activity. We don't want that to happen. We want young people to get the education that they deserve and they have a right to have, and technology shouldn't stop that progress. It should actually enhance and improve the process. But it's an interesting discussion today, CK. I hope the education arena is listening. It's not just India. This is going to be a global phenomena because India may be one of the first that are out there, but believe you me, Zoom are going to be doing this across the globe. So whether you're in education in any other of the continents, you need to be addressing this now.
Absolutely, Neville. In fact, we can end our discussion right now, and we keep following this story as it evolves. It just happened today morning, but I think we will keep following what changes the schools are making, and I will come back to you with more updates. For today, I like to say goodbye.
Cheerio, everybody. Have a good day and have fun.